There are rare and wonderful times in an actor's career when they're given the opportunity to play a character which, for whatever reason or reasons, runs deep with their personal history and experience. I'm Nicholas Ballas. I'm the artistic director of New Mexico Actors Lab, and it's my privilege to share my COVID quarantine story with you about such a moment that I had 2 years ago when Actors Lab did Ages of the Moon. Wonderful production, directed by Robert Benedetti and staged at Teatro Paraguas. Two-hander, Paul Blott was my co-actor, wonderful actor from Albuquerque. I was privileged and blessed to have him as my wingman throughout the play. As you can imagine, with a two-hander, we leaned a lot on each other. The deeper aspect of Ages of the Moon that I'd like to talk about has to do with my personal history in Santa Fe. After arriving here in the early 80s, I was intrigued by the possibility of meeting Sam Shepard, who I knew lived out here. Sam, in fact, had been one of the major reasons that I moved west. After Jack Kerouac was like, who else would you follow? And it was Sam Shepard. And my mentor, Robert Benedetti, was the dean of students, dean of the acting school at Cal Arts while I was applying to graduate schools. And so Benny's presence in the West, as well as the allure of Shepard, drew me out here. Well, shortly after graduating from Cal Arts, I moved to Santa Fe, and I was running a restaurant, the Lone Wolf Cafe. That was one of Sam's favorite watering holes. And I got to know the man, and it dispelled the myth. The man was human, like we all are, flawed, uproarious, just terrifically brilliant, and a conundrum. I wanted him to be a hero, and it turned out he was just like the rest of us, failed human in many ways. Ages of the Moon speaks very much to his failure, specifically in his marriage to Jessica Lange, that I had the unhappy privilege of witnessing the demise of while he was here in Santa Fe. Night after night, Sam would be drinking in my bar, and well, I was just glad to have him around. It was good for business. But on the other hand, it was hard, really hard to watch him sacrificing the deep love that he seemed to yearn for so deeply, sacrificing that for yet another shot of tequila and yet another opportunity to chat up a waitress. When we were picking shows for our season 2 years ago, Sam had recently passed. This was the year after his passing. And Benny and I were tossing about ideas about what we should stage, what would be the best Sam Shepard play to do, et cetera, et cetera. Many of them had been done here very well in Santa Fe over the years, and we didn't want to repeat the greatest hits, True West or Curse of the Starving Class or Buried Child or any of those, Fool for Love. And I started looking for what Sam's thoughts were about his own work. And I started by looking at Lie of the Mind, an interview that he had about Lie of the Mind. And in it, as much as he liked Lie of the Mind, he compared it to an old Buick that would get you where you wanted to go. And it was sturdy and reliable, but it was an old Buick. And on the other hand, he was very excited about this new play that he was writing, Ages of the Moon. And he compared that to a Porsche. He said it handled like a Porsche. It accelerated when it needed to, and it had great handling, and its brakes were fabulous. And I didn't know Ages of the Moon, and I quickly sent off for a copy and read it, and I was astonished that it was all about Santa Fe and his time in Santa Fe and his troubles in Santa Fe. And there were characters in it whom I recognized, and there were people, some famous, some not, whom I remembered. And all in all, it was kind of a no-brainer in terms of what are we going to do? And I shared it with Benny, and he was thrilled. So we set about doing this wonderful hour and 5-minute play that was set on the porch of a cabin in somewhere in the South in Appalachia. And Argos McCallum and Benny devised this just wonderful set, old wood and barn board, and just curiously enough that had been salvaged from another theater, became this cabin. And under Benny's watchful hand, Paul and I brought to life this terrifically poignant and moving play. There was a shotgun in it, and there was a fan that got shot repeatedly, just for some excitement. And there was a lot of bourbon, a lot of drinking. That's not a stage prop. But over the course of an hour and 5 minutes, as I say, these two guys put down a couple of bottles of bourbon and disgorged their souls of the deep shame and hope that they shared. What we learned about Sam through the character of Ames, who I was fortunate enough to portray, was his deep sorrow for everything that had happened in his infidelities and his obsession with substances, shall we say. And if there were ever a more eloquent amends or apology made to another human being, I don't know of one. This touched me deeply on my own personal life in terms of what I've been through. I mean, I think we've all been there at one point or another. And being able to share this moment with many, many others, I think to this day it was our most well-attended show. But to have that privilege of sharing Sam's soul, my own soul, and his brilliant words was something I will always treasure. Ames, his final moments as he's standing looking at a eclipse of the moon that's about to reach totality. His friend Byron is crumpled on the stairs beside him, probably having had a heart attack. Ames is talking about those last moments of desperation in Santa Fe. I don't even know who she was, Byron. Some girl. I can't even remember her face. Just some girl I met in a bar. Probably never see her again my whole life. And then as the eclipse reaches totality, he puts his arms around his dying friend. Byron says, "It's almost time, isn't it?" To Sam, to the theater.